If you are already drinking pomegranate juice every morning because someone told you it was good for your circulation and your erections, I need you to stop and listen to me for the next 60 seconds before you take another sip. Not because pomegranate juice doesn't work. It does work. The science is real. The research is solid. I recommend it to my own patients. But here is what nobody is telling you. And this is what separates the men in my practice who actually see dramatic improvement in their erection strength from the men who drink pomegranate juice for 3 months and feel almost nothing. Pomegranate juice alone is like having a powerful engine with no fuel line connected to it. The engine exists. It's capable. But without the right connection, it just sits there, and you feel nothing where you want to feel everything. What you stir into that juice every morning is the difference between getting 20% of what pomegranate can actually do for your erections and getting 100% of it. And the 4 things I'm going to show you today don't just add to what pomegranate does. They multiply it. Each one hits a completely different point in the same biological chain that controls blood flow, erection strength, and staying power. And when you run all 5 together, pomegranate plus these 4 additions, you are hitting the system that controls your erections from every angle simultaneously, in a way that no single ingredient, no single pill, and no single drink could ever replicate on its own. I'm going to show you the exact recipe, the exact amounts, the exact timing, and I'm going to explain the mechanism clearly enough that you will understand why this works at a level most men never reach. Stay with me through this entire video because the 4th addition is the one that surprises my patients the most. It has nothing to do with nitric oxide, and that is precisely why it works so powerfully alongside everything else. I'll get there. But first, you need to understand why pomegranate alone is leaving most of its potential on the table, because once you see that clearly, everything I show you next will make complete and immediate sense. My name is Dr. Mei Anderson. I am a urologist, and I have spent over 20 years specializing exclusively in sexual health for men over 60. I want to be transparent with you before we go any further. I am not here to sell you anything. I am not going to tell you that you will wake up tomorrow feeling like you did at 30. I am not going to use your frustration and your fear as a hook to keep you watching. What I am going to do is show you something I have observed consistently across 2 decades of working with men your age, that the men who recover strong, reliable erection function in their late 60s and 70s are almost never the men who found one magic ingredient. They are the men who accidentally or intentionally began combining compounds that work on the same biological system from completely different directions at the same time. Most of those men had no idea why it was working. They just noticed it was working and kept doing it. I've spent years mapping out why, and what I've put together is a combination that is more coherent, more complete, and more clinically supported than anything I've seen presented in a single place. This channel, Vital Health Seniors, exists because men over 60 deserve information this specific. Not general wellness advice. Not vague encouragement to eat more vegetables. Specific, mechanistic, actionable information that respects your intelligence and your time. If you are new here, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because every video on this channel goes somewhere most channels are not willing to go. Now let's get into the biology, because once you understand how this system actually works, what I'm about to show you will feel less like a health tip, and more like something obvious you wish you had discovered years ago. Before I tell you what to stir into your pomegranate juice, I need to correct a fundamental misunderstanding that is quietly costing men in their 60s and 70s real results. Every video you have seen about erections and nitric oxide tells you the same story. Nitric oxide is the key molecule. It opens blood vessels. It allows blood to rush into the penis. Without it, erections fail. That's all true, but it is incomplete in a way that matters enormously. Here is what those videos consistently leave out. Your body is not completely failing to produce nitric oxide at 65 or 75. It's producing less than it used to, yes. But the bigger, more devastating problem for most older men is not production alone. It is destruction. Free radicals. Unstable molecules produced by inflammation, by stress, by processed food, and by the ordinary chemistry of aging. Attack nitric oxide molecules in your bloodstream within seconds of them being created. before nitric oxide can reach your penile arteries, before it can trigger the cascade of events that produce a full, firm erection. It is being neutralized before it arrives. Think of it like sending an urgent message across a battlefield. The message leaves headquarters, but it gets intercepted on the way and never reaches its destination. It doesn't matter how many messages you send if none of them are getting through. This is why pomegranate juice is such a remarkable foundation for what we are building today. Pomegranate contains compounds called punicalagins, one of the most potent antioxidant substances ever studied in cardiovascular and urological research. Punicalagins do not produce nitric oxide. What they do is act as bodyguards for it. They neutralize the free radicals that would otherwise destroy your nitric oxide molecules before they ever reach their target. Pomegranate clears the battlefield, so the message gets through. But, and this is the point everything else hinges on, if you are only drinking pomegranate juice, you are only solving the protection problem. You still have a production problem. You still have a blood viscosity problem. You still have a signal duration problem. And depending on your age and health history, you may have a vascular repair problem that no antioxidant alone can address. Pomegranate juice handles one piece of a four-piece system, which is why men who drink it alone feel some improvement, partial improvement, enough to believe something is happening, but never enough to feel the full shift they were hoping for. The 4 additions I am about to show you complete the system. Each one fills a gap that pomegranate cannot fill on its own. And the order in which I explain them matters, because each one is going to set up the next perfectly. The first thing to stir into your pomegranate juice is L-citrulline powder. Now many of you have heard of L-arginine. It has been marketed heavily as a nitric oxide booster for men for years, and the underlying science is legitimate. Arginine is the direct amino acid that your endothelial cells use to manufacture nitric oxide. The problem is not the science. The problem is delivery. When you take L-arginine orally, a significant portion of it gets broken down by an enzyme in your gut and your liver called arginase before it ever reaches your bloodstream. By the time it arrives where nitric oxide is actually produced, in the walls of your blood vessels, much of it has already been wasted. This is why so many men try arginine supplements and feel almost nothing. L-citrulline is different in one critical way. It bypasses arginase entirely. It travels through your digestive system intact, enters your bloodstream, is absorbed into your tissues, and is converted to L-arginine directly at the sites where nitric oxide synthesis actually happens. You are delivering the fuel straight to the engine instead of pouring it in somewhere upstream where half of it evaporates before it gets there. Clinical research has confirmed that L-citrulline supplementation raises plasma arginine levels more effectively than taking arginine directly. And in men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction, citrulline supplementation produced statistically significant improvements in erection hardness scores after just 1 month of daily use. 1 teaspoon, roughly 3 grams, stirred into your pomegranate juice. It dissolves cleanly and has almost no taste. And now your pomegranate has something worth protecting. You have connected the bodyguard to a meaningful supply. Production is up. Protection is in place. But we still have 2 more problems to solve. And I want you to stay with me here because this is where the combination begins to do something genuinely different from anything you have tried before. Even with nitric oxide being produced in greater amounts and protected from destruction, if your blood itself is thick and sluggish, the improvement in actual circulation will be blunted. Here is why that matters. An erection requires a rapid, high-volume surge of blood into the corpus cavernosum, the spongy erectile tissue inside the penis. This surge has to happen quickly and with enough pressure and volume to create firmness and maintain it. If your blood is too viscous, too thick, that surge moves slowly even through vessels that have relaxed and widened. And the result is a partial erection. Soft enough to be frustrating. Not firm enough to feel right. This is where ginger becomes essential, and it is the addition most men in my practice never think to connect to their sexual health. Half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger root stirred into the juice. If you only have powder, use a 1/4 teaspoon, but fresh is meaningfully better here because the active compounds, called gingerols and showgales, are present in significantly higher concentrations in fresh root than in dried powder. Gingerols directly inhibit excessive platelet aggregation. Platelet aggregation is the tendency of blood cells to clump together, and it increases with age, with inflammation, and with metabolic stress. When platelets aggregate excessively, your blood becomes thicker and more resistant to flow. Ginger reduces this. It improves blood fluidity, a field of study called hemorrhagiology, so that blood moves more freely, more quickly, and with more pressure through the vessels that have now opened in response to nitric oxide. Wider vessels from citrulline and pomegranate. More fluid blood from ginger. Now you have two forces working simultaneously. The highway is open and traffic is moving through it at full speed. Ginger also adds its own anti-inflammatory effect directly on the endothelial lining of your blood vessels. Chronic vascular inflammation reduces the sensitivity of those vessel walls to nitric oxide signals. Even when nitric oxide is present, inflamed endothelium responds sluggishly. Ginger helps maintain the responsiveness of that lining, so your vessels react fully and promptly when the signal arrives. The flavor of fresh ginger in pomegranate juice is genuinely good. Earthy, slightly warm, slightly sharp. It enhances the taste of the juice rather than fighting it. This is a drink many of my patients tell me they actually look forward to. Now we have production elevated, protection in place, blood flowing freely. But there is still the signal duration problem I mentioned at the beginning. And this is where the third edition does something that genuinely surprised me the first time I studied its mechanism in detail. 1 tablespoon of raw unsweetened cacao powder. Not hot chocolate mix. Not Dutch processed cocoa. Raw cacao. Unprocessed, unalkalized, the darkest powder you can find with nothing added. To understand why this changes everything, I need to take you one step deeper into the biology of how nitric oxide actually produces an erection. When nitric oxide is released near the smooth muscle cells surrounding your penile arteries, it activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase. This enzyme produces a secondary messenger molecule called cyclic GMP. Cyclic GMP is the molecule that actually instructs those smooth muscle cells to relax. When they relax, the arteries widen, blood rushes in, pressure builds, and a firm erection occurs. But cyclic GMP does not last. It is continuously broken down by an enzyme called phosphodiesterase type 5, PDE5. This enzyme is constantly terminating the relaxation signal, constantly cutting the message short, constantly limiting erection firmness and duration by ending the signal before the smooth muscle cells can maintain full relaxation. You have heard of PDE5 inhibitors, sildenafil, tadalafil, the drugs most commonly prescribed for erectile dysfunction. Their entire mechanism of action is PDE5 inhibition. They slow the breakdown of cyclic GMP, so that the relaxation signal lasts longer, erections stay firmer, and duration improves. Raw cacao flavonols, specifically a compound called epicatechin, have been demonstrated in peer-reviewed research to inhibit PDE5 activity, not with the potency of pharmaceutical drugs, but naturally, progressively, and with compounding effect over consistent daily use. In the context of what we have already built, this is enormously significant. You have citrulline and pomegranate increasing nitric oxide availability. You have ginger ensuring the blood that flows through your open vessels moves freely. And now you have raw cacao slowing the breakdown of the downstream signal that those vessels are responding to. You are simultaneously pushing production up and slowing destruction down. The net result is more cyclic GMP available inside your smooth muscle cells, sustained for longer, producing stronger and more lasting vessel relaxation. Researchers call this convergent amplification. You are hitting the same biological outcome, sustained smooth muscle relaxation and powerful blood flow, from two completely independent directions at once. And cacao adds one more layer on top of this. Its epicatechin content also independently stimulates the enos enzyme, endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which is the primary cellular mechanism through which your blood vessel walls produce their own nitric oxide. This means cacao is providing a second, entirely separate source of nitric oxide production on top of the citrulline-driven pathway. Two independent inputs producing nitric oxide. Pomegranate protecting what's produced. Ginger optimizing how blood moves through the open vessels. Cacao extending the downstream signal. The system is nearly complete. But nearly is not fully. Whisk the cacao powder in. It will not dissolve with a spoon alone. Use a small whisk or a milk frother and take 30 extra seconds to do it properly. It changes the texture, ensures the full dose disperses evenly, and honestly makes the drink taste like something worth having every morning. Now I want to tell you about the fourth addition. The one that surprises my patients most consistently. And I want to explain up front why it surprises them. Because it has absolutely nothing to do with nitric oxide, cyclic GMP, or any of the mechanisms we have been discussing. And that is precisely what makes it so valuable here. 5 drops of cold-pressed black seed oil, pressed from Nigella sativa seeds. The active compound in black seed oil is called thymoquinone. And thymoquinone operates on a dimension of the erection problem that almost no discussion of men's sexual health ever addresses directly. The structural condition of your vascular endothelium. Here is the piece of the puzzle that everything else in this stack cannot solve on its own. You can have nitric oxide being produced in abundance. You can have it protected from free radical destruction. You can have fluid blood surging through open vessels with a sustained cyclic GMP signal, maintaining relaxation. But if the endothelial lining of your blood vessels, the thin, delicate inner surface that is responsible for responding to all of these signals, has been inflamed, damaged, and structurally compromised from years of oxidative stress, poor circulation, and metabolic aging, those vessels cannot respond normally. The receptors are impaired. The flexibility of the arterial walls is reduced. The machinery itself is damaged. This is the reality for most men over 65 who have been experiencing erection problems for several years. It is not just a chemistry problem anymore. It is a structural problem. And you cannot chemistry your way out of a structural problem without addressing the structure. Thymoquinone in black seed oil has been shown in clinical research to reduce vascular inflammation at the endothelial level, improve endothelial cell function and regeneration, support testosterone production in the Leydig cells of the testes, and reduce systemic oxidative stress that is actively accelerating vascular aging. What this means practically is the most important thing I will say in this entire video. The other 3 additions create the conditions for stronger erections right now. Black seed oil is repairing the environment, so those conditions become sustainable and self-reinforcing over time, instead of requiring you to perfectly run every variable every single day just to maintain the effect. It is the difference between renting an outcome and owning it. 5 drops in the juice. The flavor is strong, slightly bitter, slightly herbal, slightly spiced. The pomegranate, ginger, and cacao mask most of it. If the flavor is difficult for you, take the 5 drops directly and chase immediately with the drink. Either method delivers the same benefit. Let me show you the complete picture of what you have built, because I want you to see this as a system rather than a list. Pomegranate, neutralizing the free radicals that destroy nitric oxide before it reaches its target. The bodyguard, L-citrulline, dramatically increasing nitric oxide production through the most bioavailable pathway available, bypassing the digestive breakdown that makes arginine largely ineffective. The fuel source. Ginger, reducing blood viscosity through antiplatelet action and maintaining vascular sensitivity through its anti-inflammatory effect on the endothelium. The flow agent. Raw cacao, inhibiting PDE5 to slow the breakdown of cyclic GMP, while simultaneously adding a second independent source of nitric oxide through enos stimulation. The signal locker. Black seed oil, reducing endothelial inflammation, supporting testosterone at the cellular level, and repairing the structural foundation that all of the other mechanisms depend on. The system rebuilder. Every addition targets a different point in the chain. There is zero redundancy, zero overlap. It is a complete biological intervention covering production, protection, fluidity, signal duration, and vascular repair, simultaneously and synergistically. This is why men who find 1 or 2 of these ingredients feel partial improvement, and why men who run the complete stack experience something qualitatively different. Not a stronger version of the same partial effect, but a categorically different level of response. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Run all 5 links and the chain holds. I want to give you one contrast that makes this immediately concrete. Picture a man who is drinking plain pomegranate juice every morning. His body produces some nitric oxide, less than at 40 but some. Free radicals destroy a significant portion of it before it reaches his penile arteries. What survives produces partial vasodilation. The cyclic GMP signal that follows is terminated quickly by PDE5. His blood is somewhat thick from age-related platelet aggregation. The result is a partial, inconsistent erection. He thinks the pomegranate isn't working. Now the same man, same age, same starting physiology. He stirs in everything we covered today. Nitric oxide production increases substantially through citrulline. What is produced is protected by pomegranate. Blood moves freely through open vessels because ginger has reduced viscosity. The cyclic GMP signal is sustained longer because cacao is inhibiting PDE5. And over weeks, black seed oil is repairing the endothelial lining that makes all of this possible to sustain. The erection that results is fuller, firmer, more reliable, more lasting. And it improves progressively week over week as the cumulative effects compound. Same man, same body, completely different biological environment. That is not luck. That is not genetics. That is a complete system doing what no single ingredient could accomplish alone. Now let me give you the exact recipe with the precision that actually matters. Start with 8 ounces, roughly 240 milliliters, of 100% pure pomegranate juice. Read the label carefully. No added sugar. No pomegranate concentrate blended with apple or grape juice. Pure pomegranate only. The sugar content in adulterated juice directly suppresses nitric oxide production and actively undoes the benefit you are building. Add 1 teaspoon of L-citrulline powder, approximately 3 grams. It dissolves cleanly with 15 seconds of stirring and has virtually no taste. Add half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger root. If you are using powder, use a 1/4 teaspoon. Take the extra 90 seconds to grate fresh root when you can. The gingerol content difference is meaningful, and you will notice it in the warmth of the drink. Whisk in 1 tablespoon of raw unsweetened cacao powder. Use a small whisk or a handheld milk frother. Do not skip this step. Cacao powder clumps badly with a spoon, and you will not get a consistent dose or a pleasant texture without proper mixing. Add 5 drops of cold-pressed black seed oil. Stir once more. Drink within 10 minutes of mixing. One rule that most men never hear, and that will significantly compromise this drink's effectiveness if ignored. Do not use antibacterial mouthwash within 60 minutes of drinking this. The conversion of dietary nitrates into the nitrites that ultimately become nitric oxide begins in your mouth. It is performed by specific bacteria living on the surface of your tongue, particularly toward the back. Antibacterial mouthwash kills those bacteria without discrimination. Destroy them, and you have compromised the first and most critical step in the entire nitrate conversion pathway. Regular toothbrushing is completely fine. Antiseptic mouth rinses are not. Not within that window before or after drinking this. Timing matters more than most men realize, and I want to give you the reasoning so you can make an intelligent decision for your own schedule, rather than just following a rule you don't understand. Morning is the optimal window. Specifically, 30 to 45 minutes before physical activity, or your most active period of the day. Testosterone levels in men peak in the early morning hours, roughly between 6 and 8 a.m. for most. Drinking this stack during that natural hormonal peak creates a compound effect because testosterone itself supports endothelial function and enhances the sensitivity of your vascular system to nitric oxide signals. The acute effects: improved blood flow, reduced viscosity, initial PDE5 inhibition, begin within 60 to 90 minutes and persist for several hours. The cumulative effects: endothelial repair, progressive improvement in vascular responsiveness. Build over 4 to 12 weeks of daily consistent use. If you choose to add an evening dose, a half portion, 4 ounces of pomegranate with half the additions, the nighttime window supports vascular repair during sleep, when your body is most actively engaged in cellular restoration and hormone regulation. Some of my patients do both. A full dose in the morning, a half dose approximately 1 hour before bed. What I will not do is promise you a timeline that sets you up for disappointment. What I will give you is what the men I work with actually report, in sequence, when they follow this protocol without skipping. In the first 3 days, you may notice warmth returning to your extremities, hands, feet, lower legs. This is peripheral vasodilation. Your circulatory system beginning to respond. Some men feel nothing in this window, and that is completely normal. The changes happening at the endothelial level are not yet perceptible from the outside. Between days 4 and 10, morning erections begin returning for many men. Not consistently at first and not for everyone in this window, but the first morning you wake up with an erection you have not felt in years. And this happens. I have had patients contact me at 6 in the morning because they were genuinely startled. That is the system coming online. Through weeks 2 to 4, erection quality improves measurably. Firmness, duration, and reliability all shift in a direction that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Energy levels improve because cardiovascular efficiency has a whole body effect, not just a localized one. Sleep quality often improves in this period as well. The testosterone support from black seed oil is beginning to accumulate at the cellular level. At 30 to 60 days, the most significant change occurs for men who have stayed consistent. The endothelial repair effects are now clinically meaningful. The vascular system responds more readily and more completely. The erections at this stage do not feel like a chemical effect requiring perfect conditions to produce. They feel like a system that has been genuinely restored. Men describe it as their body coming back online rather than something external forcing a response. That distinction matters enormously. One is sustainable and the other is not. Beyond 60 days, this becomes your new baseline. I want to ask you something directly before we close, and I want you to answer in the comments because your response will shape what I produce next on this channel. Of the 4 additions we covered today, L-citrulline, ginger, raw cacao, and black seed oil, which one surprised you most? Type 1 for citrulline, 2 for ginger, 3 for cacao, 4 for black seed oil. I read every comment on this channel. And based on your answers, I will produce a dedicated deep dive video on whichever addition surprises the most men. Because if something here surprised you, it means there is more to understand about it, and you deserve that full picture. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, something specific you did not already know, please share it with one man in your life who you think is dealing with this quietly. The men who struggle most with this are almost always the men who are not talking about it. A shared video takes 10 seconds and could shift something significant for someone you care about. And if you are not yet subscribed to Vital Health Seniors, subscribe now. What I am building on this channel is not recycled general wellness content. Every video is specific, mechanistic, and designed for men over 60 who are done with vague advice and want to actually understand how their body works. I'm Dr. Mei Anderson. This is Vital Health Seniors. The next video on this channel breaks down 5 things men do every single morning that silently destroy every improvement we built today, including one that most men consider completely harmless and do without a second thought. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Take care of yourself, because nobody is going to do it for you.